There's a topic in relationships that people tend to shy away from. We're conditioned to believe in unconditional pardon, always extending another opportunity, and that affection can overcome any obstacle. However, the reality is starkly different. Certain actions can shatter partnerships to such an extent that forgiveness morphs into self-sabotage. Some conduct is so detrimental that enduring it means losing oneself incrementally. Today, we're delving into the egregious transgressions that individuals commit within romantic connections. The kinds that ought to be absolute terminating points, regardless of the depth of your affection. Let me be absolutely clear from the outset. This discussion isn't about fostering animosity or inciting discord. It's about recognizing when someone's conduct has crossed fundamental boundaries. When patterns of coercion, deceit, and indignity become so deeply ingrained that remaining in the situation necessitates sacrificing your self-respect, your psychological well-being, and your future prospects. Because here's a crucial insight that often goes unshared. Granting absolution without any accompanying change merely perpetuates abusive dynamics. The initial unforgivable offense is pervasive dishonesty. I'm not referring to minor deceptions for celebratory surprises or to spare feelings. I'm speaking about the individual who misrepresents their whereabouts, their companions, their financial expenditures. The person who constructs fabricated realities and expects you to inhabit them. Once someone establishes that deceiving you is permissible, they've effectively declared that your perception of reality holds no value. I once worked with a client whose partner was a habitual fabricator. Initially, these were minor untruths, such as the precise cost of a purchase, their post-work destinations, or the identity of their text message correspondence. He dismissed these as inconsequential white lies until he uncovered that she had concealed $30,000 in credit card debt, maintained a secondary mobile device for dating applications, and had informed her friends that he was abusive as a justification for her frequent absences. The untruthfulness wasn't the underlying issue. It was a manifestation of someone who viewed him as an impediment to be manipulated, rather than appear to be valued. This is the typical progression with inveterate deceivers. They commence with trivial deceptions to gauge your limits. They might claim a coffee cost $3 when it was $7. You don't challenge it because it seems insignificant. At that point, they've ascertained that you'll tolerate falsehoods. Subsequently, it escalates to fabricating reasons for working late when they're actually out socializing. This then progresses to asserting that certain connections are purely platonic, when emotional intimacy is clearly present. Each instance of dishonesty you overlook signals to them that your trust is expendable. The second unpardonable infraction is public denigration disguised as humor. You undoubtedly understand precisely what I'm referring to. The individual who recounts embarrassing anecdotes about you at gatherings, who ridicules your interests in front of associates, who undermines your parental authority. For example, comments like, "Oh, don't ask him about finances. He can hardly manage a checkbook." Or, "She's attempting to get back in shape. Let's see how long this endeavor lasts." Their intention isn't comedic. It's about asserting dominance by eroding your standing. This behavior is particularly insidious because when you voice objections, you're often labeled as overly sensitive or unable to appreciate a joke. However, humor is meant to be enjoyable for all participants, including the subject of the jest. When someone consistently renders you the target of their amusement, they are not engaging in lightheartedness. They are expressing disdain. And contempt is the paramount indicator of relationship dissolution. Once an individual regards you with contempt, the partnership is effectively concluded. I provided counsel to a gentleman whose wife consistently belittled him. In private, she would disparage his professional pursuits, his leisure activities, and his physical appearance. In public, she would recount his setbacks as amusing anecdotes. During family meals, she would interrupt his narratives to offer corrections, roll her eyes at his viewpoints, and apologize to others for his perceived eccentricities. He remained in this marriage for 5 years, assuming this dynamic was standard. By the time he initiated separation, he required 2 years of therapeutic intervention merely to regain confidence in the validity of his own thoughts. The third unforgivable act involves psychological manipulation and coercion. This pertains to the individual who threatens self-harm if you choose to end the relationship, who resorts to weeping to prevail in disputes, or who weaponizes your affection against you. Phrases like, "If you truly loved me, you would do this," or "A real man would do that," or "I suppose I'm simply not attractive enough for you." These are not expressions of genuine emotion. They are calculated assaults designed to assign responsibility for their emotional state to you. Manipulators are essentially emotional terrorists. They seize your empathy as collateral and demand compliance as ransom. They possess an acute awareness of your emotional triggers, having spent considerable time observing your vulnerabilities. Your apprehension of abandonment, your inherent desire to be perceived positively, and your protective instincts are all transformed into instruments of their control. Here's a significant revelation. Someone who genuinely cherishes you would never leverage your affection as a weapon. They would not exploit your insecurities. They would not burden you with responsibility for their personal happiness. Authentic love fosters a sense of freedom in choosing it, rather than entanglement through guilt, apprehension, or obligation. If an individual's primary relational tactic is manipulation, their objective is not love. It is dominion. The fourth unforgivable transgression is the encroachment upon personal space and boundaries, presented under the guise of intimacy. This describes the individual who scrutinizes your mobile device while you're asleep, who appears unannounced at your workplace to monitor your activities, or who interrogates you about every interaction, every friendship, and every moment you're apart. They will frame these actions as expressions of concern, a consequence of being so deeply enamored that they cannot help themselves. However, this is not love. It is possessiveness. Privacy is not indicative of having something to conceal. Rather, it is about preserving individual identity within a partnership. When someone disregards your boundaries, they are signaling that your autonomy is insignificant. They are asserting that you do not merit the fundamental respect of being treated as an independent entity with your own thoughts, sentiments, and lived experiences. I have encountered individuals who install tracking software on their partner's phones under the pretense of safety, meticulously review bank statements demanding explanations, and insist on attending social events because they missed you too much. This is not romantic. It is espionage. And once surveillance becomes normalized within a relationship, the dynamic shifts from partnership to a custodial arrangement, with one individual as the inmate and the other as the warden. The fifth unforgivable offense is any form of physical aggression. And before anyone argues about disparities in physical strength, aggression is abusive regardless of the perpetrator's gender. A slap, a shove, the hurling of objects, the striking of walls, the destruction of property, these are not expressions of pent-up emotion. They are declarations of dominance, conveying a message of intent to use force for control. Here's what makes physical aggression particularly perilous. It invariably escalates. A push becomes a shove escalates to a slap, and a slap can lead to a punch. Each instance of violence that is condoned teaches the aggressor that such actions are effective. It signals that you will remain, that you will forgive, and that your safety is secondary to their emotional volatility. I was acquainted with someone whose partner resorted to physical violence when intoxicated. It began with aggressive gestures, progressed to throwing items, and ultimately culminated in direct physical assaults. Each occurrence was followed by apologies, tears, and vows of amendment. However, here's a critical observation regarding individuals who employ violence. They typically reserve it for those they believe will not leave. They do not strike their superiors when angered, nor do they engage in aggressive behavior towards law enforcement officers. They possess the capacity for restraint. They simply choose not to exercise it with you. The sixth unforgivable transgression is financial exploitation and control. This encompasses the individual who conceals funds while freely depleting yours, who undermines your career to foster dependence, who accrues debt in your name, or who treats your assets as their own while maintaining a clear separation of their own resources. Financial means represent more than mere currency. They signify autonomy, security, and options. When an individual exercises control over or exploits your finances, they are effectively dictating your future. Financial abuse often operates subtly, remaining invisible to external observers. This includes the person who consistently forgets their wallet on dates, who always has an emergency requiring your financial assistance, or who voluntarily relinquishes employment with the expectation that you will provide financial support without prior discussion. They will induce guilt in you for asserting financial boundaries, posing questions like, "Don't you trust me?" Couples are expected to share, but genuine sharing necessitates mutual consent and reciprocity, not unilateral appropriation. The seventh unforgivable offense is the deliberate estrangement from support networks. This process is gradual and strategic. They may express disapproval of your friends, deem your family toxic, or assert that your hobbies consume excessive time that should be dedicated to the relationship. Incrementally and systematically, they dismantle every support structure you possess until they become your sole source of emotional connection. This is not a pursuit of closeness. It is an act of control aimed at eliminating potential rivals. Isolation serves as the abuser's most potent tool. In the absence of external perspectives, their narrative of reality becomes the only one perceived. Without a support system, departure becomes an insurmountable challenge. In the absence of friends or family, there is no one to validate that your experiences are not within the realm of normalcy. They become your entire universe, which is precisely their objective. I have observed individuals who have forfeited decades of friendships due to a partner's discomfort. I have seen people abandon their careers because their partner insisted on their presence at home. I have witnessed individuals relocate away from their families because their partner deemed them problematic. And once isolated, the genuine abuse commences. For in this state, there is no one to inform you that you are being victimized, and no sanctuary to flee to if you come to this realization independently. The eighth unforgivable act is infidelity. And regardless of contemporary societal perspectives on its complexity, when someone engages in infidelity, they are making a series of deliberate choices. The choice to pursue another individual, the choice to conceal this pursuit, the choice to jeopardize your health, the choice to erode your trust, the choice to humiliate you. Each text message, each clandestine meeting, each fabrication represents a conscious decision to prioritize their immediate gratification over your suffering. Justifications such as, "We were going through a difficult phase," or "You weren't fulfilling my needs," or "It just happened," are insufficient. No action of such magnitude occurs spontaneously. Every instance of infidelity requires premeditation, deception, and an active choice. If a relationship faces challenges, communication is the appropriate course of action. If needs are not being met, efforts should be made to address them, or separation should be considered. One cannot maintain a supplementary relationship while keeping the primary one as a backup. The individual who engages in infidelity is unequivocally revealing their character, someone who will betray you when convenient, lie when it is easier, and jeopardize everything you have built together for transient gratification. And here's a critical statistical insight. Individuals who cheat once are 350% more likely to repeat the behavior. When someone demonstrates their capacity for such profound betrayal, believe them. The ninth unforgivable transgression is the weaponization of your vulnerabilities. This refers to the individual who utilizes your deepest fears, your past traumas, and your insecurities as ammunition during arguments. You confide in them about an eating disorder and feelings of inadequacy. During a dispute, they call you fat. You share experiences of childhood abuse. When angry, they label you as damaged. You open up about depression. They accuse you of being irrational to win an argument. When someone exploits your vulnerabilities against you, they are not merely inflicting momentary pain. They are ensuring that you will never feel safe being open again. They are instilling the lesson that transparency equates to danger, that trust is equivalent to providing them with weapons, and that intimacy is merely an opportunity for them to gather ammunition. They are not only damaging the current relationship, but also compromising your capacity for future connections. I have encountered individuals who have remained with partners who weaponized their most profound secrets, believing that no one else would comprehend these vulnerabilities. However, the reality is this: someone who uses your pain against you does not understand it. They exploit it. Genuine comprehension fosters empathy, not cruelty. Authentic love safeguards your vulnerabilities. It does not expose them to public scrutiny. The 10th unforgivable act is the cyclical pattern of abuse interspersed with love bombing. This describes the individual who inflicts emotional damage from Monday through Friday, only to engage in grand romantic gestures over the weekend. They may verbally attack you, then present you with flowers. They may humiliate you, then arrange for romantic excursions. They systematically dismantle you, then rebuild you just enough to foster hope. This cycle is deliberately engineered to cultivate trauma bonding. The extreme emotional lows make the subsequent highs feel like a salvation. The inherent unpredictability of this pattern keeps you in a state of constant anxiety, perpetually striving to regain the affection of the good version of your partner. You become addicted to the periods of respite, failing to recognize that the necessity for respite signifies that you are being harmed. Healthy relationships do not necessitate recovery phases. The love bombing phase is not an expression of love. it is a tactic of manipulation. Their apologies are not born from remorse, but from a fear of your departure. Their promises of change are not genuine. They are merely a resetting of the trap. And each subsequent cycle intensifies. The low points become more severe, and the highs become more fleeting, until you are perpetually subjected to mistreatment, with only sufficient tokens of affection to sustain you, yet not enough to truly thrive. Now, let's address the underlying reasons why individuals tolerate these unforgivable behaviors. Firstly, the sunk cost fallacy. The mindset that dictates, I've already invested 5 years. I cannot possibly leave now. However, remaining in such a situation does not reclaim those lost years. It merely squanders further time. Every day spent with someone who disregards your dignity is a day not spent available for someone who will value you. Secondly, the apprehension of solitude. But it's crucial to grasp this. Being alone is not the worst possible outcome. Being with someone who systematically demolishes your self-worth, who compels you to question your own perception of reality, and who transforms love into a battleground, that is far more detrimental than being alone. In solitude, you possess the capacity for healing. In solitude, you can rebuild. In solitude, you are shielded from harm inflicted by another. Thirdly, the misconception that love inherently entails boundless forgiveness. However, granting absolution without any accompanying change merely enables destructive conduct. Forgiveness without established boundaries results in self-inflicted damage. Forgiveness devoid of consequences teaches individuals that mistreating you is an acceptable behavior.
Genuine love does not demand that you overlook the unforgivable. In fact, authentic love would never engage in such egregious acts in the first place. Fourthly, the lingering hope for transformation. The rationalizations, such as they are actively working on themselves, or they had a difficult upbringing, or they didn't intend to cause harm. However, explanations are not justifications. Understanding the root cause of someone's hurtful actions does not render the harm permissible. Furthermore, genuine change is demonstrated through consistent actions, not by requiring your endurance of further suffering to validate their metamorphosis. Fifthly, the normalization of detrimental conduct. When one is raised in an environment where relationships are perceived as arenas of conflict, when friends share analogous challenges, or when popular culture portrays jealousy as passionate and control as caring, dysfunctional dynamics become perceived as standard. However, commonality does not equate to health. Nor does normalization equate to acceptability. The mere fact that everyone within your acquaintance tolerates disrespect does not obligate you to do the same. Here's an illustration of what truly healthy relationships look like, to enable you to discern the contrast. Healthy partners engage in disagreements without resorting to disrespect. They maintain personal boundaries without resorting to surveillance. They possess individual identities without resorting to secrecy. They offer support without attempting to control. They communicate honestly, free from manipulation. They express affection unconditionally and without threats. Within healthy relationships, trust is both granted and sustained, rather than demanded and violated. Respect is considered a fundamental requirement, not something to be argued through suffering. Love is demonstrated through consistent actions, not through grand gestures subsequent to harm. Challenges are addressed collaboratively, rather than being created by one party and endured by the other. Personal growth is a shared endeavor, not a dynamic where one individual continually offers forgiveness while the other persistently transgresses. If you find yourself recognizing aspects of your own relationship in this description, it is imperative to understand this. The culpability for someone choosing to treat you poorly does not rest with you. Their behavior reflects their character, not your inherent worth. You cannot love someone into becoming a better person. You cannot forgive someone into respecting you. You cannot offer enough sacrifice to compel someone to value you. Choosing to leave is not an act of surrender. It is an affirmation of self-worth. It is not a failure. It is the recognition that certain situations are irredeemable. It is not a demonstration of weakness. It requires profound strength to depart from someone you love because you value yourself more. And you absolutely should prioritize your own well-being above that of someone who inflicts pain upon you. The repercussions of remaining with an individual who perpetrates these unforgivable acts extend far beyond the confines of the relationship itself. Your children may come to perceive this dynamic as the normative expression of love. Your friends may lose faith in your judgment. Your family may witness your gradual disappearance into someone you are not. Your professional life may suffer due to persistent emotional distress. Your physical health may deteriorate from chronic stress. Your entire existence may become consumed by the effort of managing another person's dysfunction. I have witnessed individuals dedicate decades to relationships characterized by unforgivable behavior. They remain with the misguided belief that circumstances will improve, only to discover they have completely lost themselves in the process. They transform into mere shadows of their former selves, perpetually anxious, constantly treading on eggshells, and eternally striving to earn basic respect. And when they ultimately extricate themselves, if they manage to do so, they often require years to rediscover their pre-relationship identity. Here is the unvarnished truth regarding individuals who commit these unforgivable acts. They are fully cognizant of their actions. They do not exhibit such behavior towards everyone. They refrain from disrespecting their superiors, manipulating their parents, or deceiving individuals who hold power over them. They possess the capacity for self-control. They simply choose not to exercise it with you because they are confident in your willingness to accept it. The person who claims an inability to manage their jealousy does not display such behavior in their professional life. The individual who professes to lose control when angered does not exhibit this lack of restraint when interacting with law enforcement officers. The person who purportedly neglects to respect your boundaries readily remembers to do so for everyone else. This is not a matter of incapacity. It is a deliberate choice. And they are electing to cause you harm because they are convinced you will remain. If you are the perpetrator of these actions, consider this a wake-up call. Your conduct is abusive. Your partner deserves far better. Your apologies are hollow, without demonstrable change. Your explanations do not negate the harm inflicted. If you truly love someone, you must either seek intensive professional assistance to alter these patterns, or grant them the freedom to find someone who will not cause them pain. Love is not inherently harmful. If your actions cause harm, it is not love. For those entangled in these destructive relationships, here is a practical course of action. Meticulously document all instances of deceit, manipulation, and abuse. Confide in a trusted individual about your situation. Reach out to domestic violence support services, even if you do not believe your circumstances are severe enough to warrant their intervention. Develop a comprehensive safety plan for your departure. Secure your financial resources. Safeguard vital documents. And remember, the act of leaving is often the most perilous period. So refrain from announcing your intentions. Simply depart. Cease providing justifications for unforgivable behavior. Excuses such as, they are under a lot of stress. Stressed individuals do not automatically become abusive. They are insecure. Insecure individuals do not automatically become controlling. They were under the influence of alcohol. Alcohol does not create behavior. It merely amplifies existing tendencies. They had a difficult childhood. Millions of individuals have endured challenging childhoods without resorting to abusing their partners. Explanations are not excuses, and understanding does not equate to acceptance. The cost of forgiving the unforgivable invariably exceeds the cost of departure,
Each day you remain, you are signaling to them that their behavior is acceptable. You are teaching yourself that you do not deserve better treatment. You are demonstrating to any children involved that this is the model for relationships. You are indicating to your friends that you will tolerate disrespect. The price of this endurance is far too high. Observe what transpires when you finally resolve to cease forgiving the unforgivable. You reclaim your life. Your anxiety levels diminish. Your health improves. Your friendships are rekindled. Your family experiences relief. Your career begins to recover. Your children witness resilience in lieu of suffering. You remember your authentic self, the person you were before someone convinced you that you deserved to be disrespected. I have witnessed individuals undergo profound transformations after extricating themselves from unforgivable relationships. The woman who was consistently told she was unintelligent for years embarks on a successful entrepreneurial venture. The man who was subjected to control and isolation rebuilds his social connections and discovers genuine affection. The individual who was subjected to manipulation and gaslighting regains the ability to trust their own judgment. Liberation from toxic relationships is not merely an escape. It is a resurgence. It is crucial to comprehend this. There are billions of individuals on this planet. The notion that you must endure abuse from one person because they are your soulmate or because your love for them is exceptionally profound is sheer lunacy. There are countless individuals with whom you could form a loving connection who would not deceive you, manipulate you, control you, or inflict harm upon you. Love is not a scarce commodity, but self-respect should be an absolute prerequisite. The pervasive myth that love conquers all has been responsible for more life-ruining consequences than any other romantic fabrication. Love does not overcome abuse. It perpetuates it. Love does not conquer disrespect. It endures it. Love does not conquer manipulation. It excuses it. Authentic affection doesn't necessitate overcoming obstacles, because genuine affection doesn't instigate conflict. Cease viewing absolution as a merit when it actually represents a susceptibility being preyed upon. Absolution holds merit when it's merited through demonstrable change. It possesses potency when coupled with accountability. It offers solace when it follows sincere regret and personal evolution. However, absolution devoid of these elements isn't absolution. It's outright denial. If an individual in your life perpetrates acts that are beyond pardon, you are granted the liberty to depart. There's no need to await the escalation of circumstances to an extreme point. You aren't obligated to exhaust every possible avenue first. Their consent or comprehension is not a prerequisite. You don't need to grant absolution to progress. All that's required is the recognition that you merit superior treatment and the subsequent action based on that realization. Consider this regarding personal limits. They are not malicious. They are indispensable. Stating, "I will not condone deception," is not severe. It's salutary. Declaring, "I will not endure disrespect," is not an unreasonable demand. It's fundamental. Asserting, "I will not grant absolution for mistreatment," is not an indication of malice. It's self-preservation. Personal limits are not intended to exert dominion over others. Their purpose is self-protection. The world may attempt to persuade you that boundless affection implies an unreserved acceptance of all conduct. That is not affection. It is martyrdom. Authentic affection is contingent upon certain terms: esteem, candor, security, and reliance. Without these foundations, it is not affection, but exploitation masquerading as affection. Do not be deceived by the pretense. Every connection encounters challenges, yet not every challenge can be pardoned. Everyone errs, but not every error is permissible. All individuals warrant empathy, but not all individuals are entitled to your presence. Every person has the capacity for change, but not every person will embrace it. And you are under no obligation to remain passively awaiting the revelation of which category someone belongs to. If you retain nothing else from this discourse, hold on to this. You are deserving of a connection where esteem is the norm, not something arduously earned through hardship, where affection is demonstrated through unwavering care, not mere apologies following harm, where reliance remains intact, not repeatedly fractured and then demandingly reinstated, where you feel secure, appreciated, and genuinely cherished, not in spite of your inherent self, but precisely because of it. The inexcusable actions we have discussed are not oversights or misinterpretations. They are deliberate choices. Choices to inflict pain, to mislead, to dominate, to take advantage. And when an individual consistently makes these choices, they are explicitly revealing their true nature. Believe them. Do not absolve them. Depart from them, for your existence is too precious to be squandered on someone who treats it as inconsequential. Stop posing the question, how can I salvage this situation? And begin inquiring, why am I accepting this? Cease pondering, when will they undergo a transformation? And start acknowledging, this is their present reality. Discontinue the thought process of, but I care for them, and instead remember, but they do not care for me. Not in a genuine, healthy, or acceptable manner. You are allotted a single life. These years are irretrievable. There is no opportunity for a do-over. Each day spent in the company of someone who perpetrates unforgivable acts against you is a day you are unavailable for authentic affection, genuine esteem, and a true partnership. Every moment you fritter away in granting absolution for the unforgivable is a moment you could be dedicating to healing, growth, and flourishing with someone who would never necessitate such a plea for forgiveness. The most potent action you can undertake is not to endure mistreatment. It is to reject it outright. The most courageous act you can perform is not to remain and contend. It is to depart and excel. The most affectionate gesture you can offer yourself for any children involved and for your future is not to pardon the unforgivable. It is to liberate yourself from anyone who would impose such a burden upon you. I am eager to hear from you.
What recurring patterns have you identified? What personal boundaries have you realized the necessity of establishing? What inexcusable transgressions have you been overlooking with forgiveness? Please share your observations in the comments section. The intention is not to cast shame upon anyone, but rather to assist others in recognizing these patterns. Occasionally, witnessing another individual articulate your precise predicament serves as the crucial wake-up call needed to finally declare enough. Remember, ceasing to engage is not abandoning the pursuit of affection. It is relinquishing the acceptance of anything less than true affection. It is not shutting down your heart. It is opening it to the potential of experiencing genuine love. It is not a failure. It is the initial stride towards achieving success in discovering that which you genuinely deserve. The unforgivable does not merit absolution, and you do not deserve to coexist with the unforgivable.